Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of For the People of the People. This is the election special. We have a whole new group of guest host panelists here today. We are going to be talking and having an open conversation from people who have different ideologies, they have different understandings, and they're from different parties. So this is a conversation. This is not a place to bash. We are not arguing. We are just having open dialogue. So what I need to do now is to introduce you to all of the wonderful people who were on the panel today. Or at least most of us. Most of us are here.
Now let's meet our panelist for tonight. Chris Enck is a trucking professional and brings in a firm conservative view. James Cook is an educator and providing insight from the libertarian perspective. Lynda Woolard is a president of a charitable foundation and will be giving insight on the Democratic base. Marissa Johnson is the host of the Queen's Table podcast, and she will be voicing her perspective from a progressive POV. Justice Epen is a software developer and business owner who's bringing the birthday party views. We would like to welcome our panelists.
All right. So we are here today. We're going to be talking, everybody, like I mentioned before, if you are watching this, we will be using or may use some adult language every now and again, but we are going to be very respectful to one another. I just wanted to throw that out there. So without further ado, I want to get some information. Marissa will be on her way. I believe she's probably about 3 minutes or so away, so we'll give her some time. But in the meanwhile, we need to find out about each one of you. So here's the first question that I'm going to be asking each one of you. Who are you planning on voting for this year in this presidential election? If you want to name your political affiliation, you can do so. And then if you would ever vote outside of that affiliation. And lastly, what are the key campaign promises for the candidate that you are planning on supporting? So I'm going to ask Mr. Cook. Can you give us who you are? Let's get your political background.
So James Cook here. Political background is originally growing up, I was kind of like right wing. I was actually registered as a Republican when I was like 17, like going in the first time going into voting. But I quickly dropped that. I became a libertarian because I just kind of realized a lot of the right-wing ideology wasn't quite what I lined up with, and a lot of the left-wing ideology wasn't what I lined up with. And I just kind of really got attracted to this idea of like free people make good decisions. I own my body, you own your body, and we kind of respect that. Like that's a platform. Like don't hit anybody, don't take their stuff, and we can figure it out and we can cooperate. So I'm voting for Jo Jorgensen, who's the libertarian nominee for president in 2020. She was in 1996 the first female ever elected or ever nominated to a presidential ticket as the VP for the Libertarian Party. She is also she's been a libertarian for 30 plus years. She's a PhD psychology lecturer at Clemson. I think she's got a lot that she brings to the table. Some of the key campaign promises are ending the drug war. She says on day one, she will federally pardon anyone that is convicted of nonviolent crimes at the federal level. Also on day one, she will bring the troops home from 150 countries that we're currently occupying. And then she refuses to sign a non-balanced budget. Anytime that a budget will be sent from Congress to her that is not a balanced budget, she will not sign it. I think those are some hardline things that good candidates should be able to stand for. I think libertarians bring a lot for everyone. They have something for everybody. So
awesome. Okay. Now I want to get Chris. Can you give us, or should I call you Christopher? Can you tell us the same? Who are you going to be voting for this year? Would you ever vote outside of that affiliation? And what are some of the key things you are looking at this year?
Well, again, I want to say thank you for inviting me for this. This is the first time I've been on a podcast, so this is a fun experience. It's nice to have a platform in which I can share my opinion because I've been feeling very strongly about different things. And the person I'm voting for, well, hold on for 1 second here. I think that explains it right there. Right there. I know I have to throw that in there because I will be a little funny once in a while. But yeah, supporting Trump. I'm Republican. But growing up, I didn't really follow the politics that much at all. I started following a little bit when Obama was in office, and I started following it ever since. But I think this past year, I really been really in depth looking into it. And I think a lot of people, I think with everything that's going on, I think a lot of people in America should wake up. I think a lot of them are. I think we should be concerned about who's in the presidency office, what's their policies, how it affects you in the long run. I think more people need to be more involved with our politicians and making sure we have the right ones for what works for us. I'm a Republican, but since I've been getting more into the politic world, I think I'm probably a Republican. I think more maybe leaning for a conservative. Republican, maybe leaning to conservative. To me, I'm not all big with the names. To me, I focus my opinion on what I feel is best for my faith, because I'm a Christian. I'm very based my decisions on my faith and the way I live. And I believe in protecting the Constitution and the rights of the Constitution, which is one of the reasons why I do support Trump, because I feel like not only does he, being a businessman background instead of being a politician, he came from a business background, which is the economy. I think he's also did a great job with the military, strengthening the military, and I think he's going to be the best one for America in the long run to protect our freedoms. A much stronger president than Joe Biden, and that's kind of where I stand. As for voting outside the party, again, like I said, I'm a Republican, but only by name. I have my own mindset and my opinion about things. It just seems like I steer more to the Republican Party. And maybe toward the conservative side a little bit too, but I go by Republican. But I make my convictions on my faith and my opinion rather than just a party.
Okay, I can respect that. And Lynda, can you tell us who you're voting for this year? Can you tell us, what key issues are important to you, and if you would vote outside of that affiliation?
For sure. I got involved in politics after Hurricane Katrina when New Orleans was struggling to rebuild. And about a year into that process, I realized we really weren't going to make it back as a community unless we had an ally in the White House. So I started volunteering for the Obama campaign in 2007. And since then, I have either as a volunteer or a staff person worked on some campaign, whether it's for a candidate or an issue-based campaign. I've been doing that ever since. I'm voting this year for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I do identify as a Democrat. I am ideologically a progressive. I have voted for candidates outside the party. In fact, I just did in this vote. I early voted earlier this week, and I voted for an independent candidate in one of the local races. The key campaign promises for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is, you've all probably heard, Joe Biden's talking about restoring the soul of the nation. But I think the first thing to tackle is tackling the pandemic, getting the economy stabilized, and helping those who are most in need based on the fact that they're handling the pandemic and the economic downturn. And all those things are related. He said he will protect and improve upon Obamacare. And one of the big things that he and Kamala are talking about are addressing climate change through a clean energy economy. And that'll be jobs for folks, a big economic initiative through clean energy jobs.
Okay. Awesome. All right, Justice. Can you break it down for us? Let us know who you're voting for, because this is a good one. And let us know what the key issues are for you. And would you ever vote outside of that affiliation?
Yes. Thank you so much for, again, having me on the show. Last time I was on, it was a really rocking good time. So I'm really glad to be back. I'll admit that I don't really decide who to vote for until I'm in the ballot box. But this year, I am strongly leaning toward voting for Kanye West and the birthday party. And here's why. Number one, the Democratic Party is an unmitigated disaster for its entire history, the party of slavery, of Jim Crow, of all that. I honestly cannot see really any leadership whatsoever in the Democratic Party. And I think it would just be a great thing for America if we could put that party to rest forever. I'm not a mono-party person or a multi-party person. I think a two-party system is just fine, but we got to get rid of the Democratic Party. So I'll probably never vote for them. In Maryland this year, a red wave isn't really in play. So I think the pragmatic strategic vote here actually is for Kanye West. If you support Kanye West, if you vote for him, you'll be taking votes away from Biden, which is a great thing. Take votes away from the lying supporter of baby murder and give them to the pro-life, pro-Christian candidate. I'm 100% on board for that. So in Maryland, I think a vote for Kanye West is the right vote. The only way America truly becomes great again, truly favored by God, is a matter of repentance from sin and just being a good, moral, virtuous people, which is what this country was designed for. Would I ever change my affiliation? I'm actually an independent. I'm not registered with any political party. I never have been. I do consider myself very open-minded, though. And, I'm attracted to a lot of conservative principles, libertarian principles. So, yeah, I would definitely vote for someone who is really virtuous, really wise, anyone that's the right choice at the time. You're given the options that you're given, and you need to make the lesser of multiple evils decision. So, yep, I'm voting for Kanye, and I would definitely consider voting for other people.
Okay. And Marissa, can you let us know who you're planning on voting for this year? If you're undecided, you can say that. And if you have decided, if you would vote outside of that political affiliation, and what are the key issues for you this year?
Okay, well, I first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. Great to be here. I did early vote, and I went ahead and I voted for Joe Biden under duress. I did not want to vote for Joe Biden. That is not my guy. Okay, he's, in my opinion, better than Trump. So at this point, I didn't want him. I wanted Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang was my guy. And I'll tell you the main reasons why. He had an actual plan. He had an actual plan that was doable. And a lot of the other candidates in the Democratic Party were just pandering, telling people what they wanted to hear instead of the truth. There was a lot of things that Andrew Yang said, listen, I'd love to be able to do X, Y, and Z, but at this point in time, it's not going to be a thing. I like someone who is honest and as much as a politician can be. And that gets to the point, and that's what Andrew Yang did. However, he is not a candidate, so I ended up voting for Joe Biden. My one and only issue that I care about, I took a page from that show on Netflix, The Patriot Act. There was an episode where he was talking about how we have too many tabs open, too many things that we're so incredibly passionate about that we can't get to each and every one of them. We need to close out some of those tabs and find what it is that you're interested in, what it is that you're passionate about, and run with that. So I've taken a page out of that book. The only thing that I'm concerned about is the Black agenda. If you don't have a Black agenda, then I can't vote for you. And to be honest with you, if Donald Trump even had a viable Black agenda, I would have voted for him, but he didn't. Nobody else does. I don't believe that Joe Biden would actually implement a lot of stuff, but we're in a position that we actually have leverage now. So that's why I voted for Joe Biden. But let's be clear, didn't want to.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it's interesting. We have a bunch of different perspectives on who and why you want to vote for the particular candidates that you have. But we need to really get and dig a little bit deeper into it. Alex, do you want to take this one away?
Are we going with the bulletin points or we're going with the next question?
Oh, well, we can go with the next question. I think we kind of,
okay.
Yeah.
So the next question would be, is America great right now? What policies did Trump put in place that has made it great, if you believe he has, or what has he done to make it not great? So I want to throw it to James.
You said me? So first of all, Make America Great, that 2016 slogan, I thought that was a really good slogan. Just talking from a slogan perspective, I thought it was on the level of Obama's Hope and Change. That was awesome. That was really good because it kind of drew some of the everyone kind of recognizes. I think regardless of your political affiliation, you recognize that there's some things wrong in the country. You don't quite know, or we can't quite agree on exactly what's wrong, but we need to fix some stuff, right? So Trump actually tapped into that, which is why I think his campaign was so successful. He tapped into it. It was a great slogan. But unfortunately, I don't think America right now is better off in 2020 than it was in 2016. So that's why his campaign slogan, keep America great, doesn't make a ton of sense. You see, even aside from the COVID pandemic, I was talking about this, even in 2018, 2019, a lot of his policies, especially economic policies, were just, they were destroying the economy. It was like putting the economy on caffeine. And I know a lot about caffeine because I drink plenty of it, but I know when to stop. The problem is he, I think, is just so short-sighted that he wants the economy to do really well. He wants to get the credit for it. And so he's willing to sacrifice long-term stable growth for short-term making him look good. And I think that's one of his main problems. He wants to make himself look good over anything else. So even aside from that, there's so many other issues that I don't think are better now. I think we're more divided. I think there's more centralized power in Washington. And that makes us fight. Like, we should be unified on so many different issues. But the fact is, there's so much power. Donald Trump has so much power. And if Biden wins, he's going to have so much power. And we're all just going to Washington to fight each other instead of, if the power is a little bit more local, we wouldn't have to fight over whether we open schools or how we deal with COVID or just all of these mandates that we're all fighting over. It's all because the power is in one spot. So I think that makes us worse overall, and it makes the political discussion worse. It makes all of the animosity worse. It makes us at each other's throats, and I think that's contributing to a lot of the civil unrest right now. So no, I don't think America's great right now. I think it's much worse than it was in 2016. And I didn't answer. I forgot. Would I vote out of my party? Absolutely. I actually have. I was a Tulsi Gabbard fan, the Democratic Party, this past year. Voted for primaries. I really liked her. And I have voted for both Republicans and Democrats in my past.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
And I'm sorry, Green Party too. Green Party. I campaigned for Howie Hawkins in Maryland, got them on the ballot this year.
Awesome. So you're just like all around.
I like ideas. I love ideas. I'm all about ideas.
So hopefully that means you support Andrew Yang, who's an idea person too.
So yeah, no, I liked Andrew Yang. I disagreed with a lot of his stuff, but I loved the conversation he brought up, and I wish he was more successful on that debate stage.
Gotcha. Same here. So hey, Chris, I'll throw it to you. The campaign slogan has changed to "Keep America Great." So do you believe that America is great because of Donald Trump? And if you do or do not, explain. Chris?
All right. So I'm next, you said?
Yeah, you're next. Yeah, sorry.
I said I'm next. Sorry about that. I was waiting for my big picture. I was waiting for my big picture to come up on the screen. So, okay.
Waiting for your glamour shot.
Yes, that's right. I gotta wait for a glamour shot. I gotta look good, So, as for being America, as for being America under Trump's presidency or not, I would say that there is a lot more better with Trump's administration than we've seen in the 8 years of Obama's administration. The economy, for one thing, has improved greatly in the 3 years that Trump's been in the office over the 8 years that Obama's been in the office. I mean, you can look at the numbers too. I think one of the things that, although I do not say that I don't think that America is like great, but I think it's better with Trump. I think Trump has American people better in mind, and I think the fact that he has he coming back from a business standpoint, which economy is a big deal. And I think the fact that a lot of things that he did, such as like knocking out our taxes, cutting the taxes down, the plans that he put in effect, like the tariffs and stuff, like trying to bring businesses back to America. I think that is one of the things I think when Trump was talking about making America great, it's not that it's going to be perfect. That his point is trying to bring more of our place of America here, bringing the more money, the power back into our place instead of depending on foreign powers and losing a lot of our economy over to manufacturing. I know I work in manufacturing, and I used to always hear people all complaining about, we're sending jobs overseas, and that's what we've done. So what Trump did, I know our topic isn't all about economy, but just it's kind of around the same thing. The fact they put tariffs on businesses that are sending businesses overseas is giving the businesses more incentive to bring that manufacturing in America by giving them tax credits. And I think Trump has done more than he's been given credit for. I think part of the problem that we have division is the fact that the Democrats are so hell-bent, excuse my language, so bent on against Trump, and because they lost their power, they had Obama in their office for 8 years. And because they're losing that power, I think that's one of the big deals that they're kind of all bent out of care about. I think if we want the United States to be united, then instead of the Democrats and the media who are working apparently with the Democrats, instead of working against Trump, they're not even making the effort to even work with Trump. We could do a lot more better in America if they wouldn't be pushing the false narratives, all the hate toward Trump. You know, Trump isn't perfect, and I don't agree with everything he said, but I think a majority, he has a long list of policies that have helped America, but you don't hear nothing mentioned about it because the media don't want to share that information. And I think Trump has done a lot for America. It's just not mentioned as much. And I think that if we were to the policies as enacted, you would see a little bit different. You would see a big difference of where he has done a lot, even though you don't hear it mentioned as much. So I think America, as for being great again, I think it's better. I wouldn't say it's super great, but I think it's better with Trump's administration. If we could get rid of all the hate from the Democrats and the media, I think we would see that more. But we don't see that much because we're always want to find something to hate on Trump about instead of we can just saying what he has done good. Well, he has done a lot of good things, including strengthening our military and help our economy and other things. But I don't know. I might be low. I might have been. I don't know what my time is. I don't know if I'm out of time for talking right now. Where am I?
So hey, so let me
getting in the groove. He had that.
Yeah.
You know, that's awesome. So hey, I want to pass it to Lynda. And in your response, if you can, if there's anything that you've heard between people that's spoken that you disagree with, you're free to give your opinion.
So to the question, is America great right now? That my answer to that is yes and no. There's always great things about our country, and there's always great people in our country, but our country has never lived up to its full promise. So what has there ever been a time when it's been great? Yes and no, right? I think, we've fallen short of our highest promise. So our goal is to always be working towards a more perfect union, and I don't feel like that's what we're doing right now. So that to me is where the problem lies. I think greatness requires work, it requires progress, and it requires a desire to be good. So it's a little hard for me to give Trump credit on that score. I do want to just acknowledge Marissa and talking about Yang. I mean, Biden was not my top choice either. I'm perfectly happy to vote for him. But I think that there were other younger candidates that maybe showed some brighter promise for the country. But I'm very happy that I voted for Biden because we did see a lot of people showing up in the primaries who were very clearly, once we got to a more diverse state, where the states where the primaries had more diverse voters, the voters really voted for him. And I want to respect that. I want to respect that that's what the voters wanted. And the last thing I'll say about that is where I live, we are a very poor state. So the economy has not been great here. It has not improved under Trump. In fact, some of those tariffs have greatly hurt our farmers here. So how we approach voting in Louisiana quite often is as a form of harm reduction. We have people in our communities who can't vote, people in our communities who really need help and assistance. And so I always think of my vote as something more than just my vote. My vote is a vote that represents the people in my community. And so it's an obligation for me to go vote for that. At the end of the day, greatness is what we should be striving for, and that requires all of us to vote. so that we can be moving our country forward.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot. So, hey, Justice, you go ahead, and then Marissa will have the last word. Try to be, if you can, so we can move on. It's already 8 o'clock. Try to be a little bit more brief if you are repeating something or have the ideas that someone else has already said. Try to admit those.
Sure. I mean, if the question is America great? I think that the answer is like, obviously, yes. Just at first glance, we are a great country. We are incredibly singular, unlike any other country ever to exist in the past. It's just not even close. The nuances of the question is that, are we great in all areas? And the answer is like, obviously not. There are aspects that we're not doing great at. It's been said, I don't think it's really been articulated well, which is that the way that we're sick in this country is a spiritual illness, right? We are not able to communicate with one another. We're not able to get things done because we don't see things from the same fundamental values sort of conversation, right? Like, we need to change the entire framing of the conversation. The conversation has been framed from a material perspective where it's like, inequality or healthcare or like all these specific issues. But the fact is that until we learn how to love one another, until we learn how to really care for one another as individuals and as people, that is the way to make the country better than it already is. That's the way that the country's become great. Since the very beginning, the founders were so oriented around the transcendence of the individual because of our being made in the image of God. That's the type of person that we attracted to this country. It's the ethos that permeates literally the entire system of laws that we have in this country. The entire system of Western philosophical thought is built on the Judeo-Christian ethic. And just for the last really 50 years, all of our institutions have been invaded by this secularist, socialist monster that comes without any real vision of a future that is meaningful or pragmatic. It comes just seeking to destroy and to critique all the things that have made us great, which is this like objective morality and this religious freedom that we have in this country, and the economic freedom that we have in this country. But again, like, I don't even want to get into the material aspects of it because the material aspects are illusory. The real story is that we are spiritually ill, and until we become enlightened and we come around this shared sense of objective morality under one God, I don't really see, the secular socialists tried over and over and over, and all they do is fail, and it always ends in destruction and poverty. So I'm suggesting a much better way, which is that we come together around the things that draw us together spiritually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then Marissa, you are our final on that topic.
All right. I'm going to make this real brief. America is great. It is wonderful. We are at the very top of the top, right? America is great for police officers, for corrupt judges, for corrupt DAs. America's great for some people, and it always has been great for some people. But as far as for the American public, it's never been great. We founded this country on bloodshed. Okay, we have slaughtered so many people and made excuses for one thing or the next, never making it right, which is why we're in this exact position that we're in today. So as far as corrupted officials, yeah, sure, it's great for them. It's wonderful for them. They're swimming in the wealth. But as far as the American people, I hope that none of you guys have to ever experience being a single mother of 4 children with a degree in psychology that you can't do anything with. However, it's not great for me. It's not great for me. It's not great for my mom. It's not great for my dad. It's not great for a whole lot of people that I know. So we're never going to get to that point, especially if the American government refuses to make it right with the people that they have displayed so many atrocities against in this country. And until that happens, it's never going to be great.
Try to combine the next section. We're running, we're an hour left. So we should kind of try to combine the next 2 questions in the best way we can.
I feel like you guys for like 6 hours straight. Like, no joke. I want to touch on all of this stuff. This is awesome. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so I'm just going to jump in here for a quick moment. So we just talked about, is America great, and the whys or why not, that you may or may not believe that. Now, we have an election coming up very, very quickly. And we only truly, I'm not going to say only, but in this next question, we only really address two people who are actually running for president. And I think it's because the possibility of the winners just so happen to be weighted probably either Trump or Joe Biden. So I want to ask you, what excites you the most about the possibility of a Trump reelection? And then what are you most scared of? And I guess the same thing is with the Joe Biden presidency. And then I want, given their record, does either candidate really deserve to get the African American vote, which is a big pull right now for both candidates? I'm going to ask the Biden supporter first, because right now it's showing that Biden is potentially in the lead. Lynda.
Yeah. So clarify for me, though. You want me to just answer what excites me about Biden, or you want me to talk about what would excite me about Trump as well?
For both.
So how about this? Since we kind of talked about that question when we talked about our policies, let's just go with the deserved black vote. If that way we can. And I don't want to like cut into it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of really did talk about too. I don't know that it's about exciting for me for either of them. I think it's about getting the best person in there and someone who I don't feel is terrifying. Look, I don't think nobody deserves anybody's vote. I think you have to earn a vote. I think that said, you have some vastly different people running if you're talking about the black vote. And I'm speaking as a white woman, so just let's be clear about that if anyone's not able to see the screen. But we have the current occupant of the White House, Trump, who has a long history of racism that I think is...
Could you give an example?
Pretty severe. 50 years ago, the Nixon Department of Justice accused Trump of racism for refusing to rent to black families. If you get accused of racism by the Nixon administration, that's pretty hardcore. He took out full page ads in the paper when 5 young black and brown boys were accused of raping a woman in Central Park. Those they had to serve some time, but the young men were later shown as they're now called the Exonerated 5. You can watch Ava DuVernay's When They See Us on TV about that. He took out a full page ad in the paper. He has never apologized to them. He wanted the death penalty for those people. He went around the country talking about birtherism and, pushed that conspiracy theory forward. So that's 3 examples, and I want to go on it too long. But there's more to be found. Biden is a white man who was born at a time when segregation still existed. He is a product of that time. I believe he is trying to evolve. I don't think it's an easy process for folks. That said, the reason he entered politics was after watching the race riots in his city of Wilmington, Delaware, after Martin Luther King was assassinated. And he felt civil rights was what animated him to political life. He has chosen for his campaign leadership. Simone Sanders is an advisor in his campaign, one of his top advisors. My Congressman, Cedric Richmond, is co-chair of his campaign. He chose a black woman. He said he'd choose a woman. He chose a black woman for his running mate. He has pledged to choose a black woman for Supreme Court. He understands the need to address the issues of generational wealth. He has a full-fledged plan on his website, joebiden.com/Black America. It's called Lift Every Voice, if anybody wants to read it. So I think he's backed by a lot of people who I think are trusted in the black community, in the black progressive community specifically.
Yeah, and I want to get Chris in here because he's on the other side of this. So, Chris, I know you're not an African American. I get that. But given that this is one of those bigger bases, also the Latinx community is also a big push right now. They're trying to get the Latinx vote. They're trying to get the African American vote. Do you think, given the record of Trump's record, because I know you hear this a lot, you hear a lot that Trump is a racist. What do you think, or do you think that Trump is a better candidate for people of color?
Well, I think with like some of I don't know all the like I said, I know some of the stuff that Trump has done for the black community. I don't know everything. I know he has helped black colleges. As for racism, I mean, he's been accused of racism over and over again. They condemn white supremacy. I mean, it's an underlying story that the only reason why they ask him so much is because they're trying to get the black vote. Well, Trump has over and over time said he condemns white supremacists, KKK. And as for Joe Biden's record, he doesn't have a very good record either for the black people. In fact, he was even at a funeral of a former KKK member. I don't know a whole lot of details about that, but he also had that, what was that criminal bill back in the 80s that put thousands, I don't remember the numbers, a high number, thousands of black people in jail. So to try to say that he's not racist, I also think is just because he black woman, which some people kind of contest, not really fully, it's really not important. But the thing is you know, if you're only picking a candidate because she's black, I don't think that's really a good answer. If you're going to pick a woman, whether black or whatever, you need to pick her because of her credentials. And Kamala Harris does not have a good list. If you look at her history, she doesn't have great credentials. She's also very extreme leaning. And he has some bad reputation as being a prosecutor, has done a lot of things that are really bad. So as for Trump goes, I don't know about before his presidency as much as he has done as for blacks, but I know since he's been the president, he did the prison reform bill. He's done other things. I don't know all the list right now. I don't have all the list here, but I know he's been working to help black people more. And between Joe Biden and Trump, well, Joe Biden, he has no excuse to say he's going to help black people. He's not racist. Well, my goodness gracious, he's been in politics for 7 years and ran with Obama, the first black president in the United States of a freaking America here. And he hasn't done a single dang thing for the black people. When he was with the VP with Obama, what did you see that they really did much for the black people? Hardly much anything talked about. And I just, although I don't know, I would like to see more for black people for Trump, and I have to try to look at some more, and try to follow up a little bit more what he's done. But I still think out of both the two, that Trump is gonna be more help for the black people, and that affects both the community and the economy, and everything works together to help the black people. And also, incidentally, as for polls go, because the polls haven't been always accurate, actually, it's interesting to note that the polls actually are raising for Trump from black people, which you don't hear much about that. But more black people are voting for Trump, so apparently they see something with them. But that's where I stand. I don't have a whole lot of detail, a whole lot of stories about that, but I still stand with I believe Trump he does what he says he's going to do, and that's my opinion.
Okay, I'm not sure where those polls are, but we're going to leave those polls where they are. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to jump to another topic here. I want to ask you guys. We don't really have a lot of things going on as far as wars or new wars, or they're not engaging in new wars. Okay, but war is heavily on our mind. There, of course, we have places like Iran. We have other foreign powers that we need to be looking at. What are your thoughts on war? Is there ever an acceptable reason to potentially invade another country? Do you think that Americans should be doing more in foreign policy? Because there is this ideal that under the Trump administration, we have not been as strong on foreign policy. We have allowed certain dictatorships to be able to do as they please. I'm going to ask Mr. James, what are your thoughts on this? Do you feel that America is being kind of lax on foreign policy? And do you think that there's ever a need, or what's your thought on war?
So war in general, I'll cover like the broad philosophical topic. War should be defensive. There's like an old doctrine about what is the just war? What is a good war? And usually it's almost always defensive, right? So you try to trade with people, you try to talk to people, and only as a last resort should you go and murder their kids. That's not okay. You can't just drop a bomb in Hiroshima or Nagasaki. That's not okay. There's things that America's done for war, and we just don't care because they're all, not Americans, right? So in general, I'm very skeptical of war, as are just about every single libertarian I know. And the other thing is, war is the biggest government program in the history of governments. This is what they do. That's where most of the money goes. That's where most of the power comes from. Every single war, the government gets more power, and they use it to keep people in line. And then guess who gets killed? Well, people in third world countries, because we just don't care about brown people in the Middle East, I guess. So I'm very much against war. Is war ever okay? If it's defensive, yeah, we should pull all of our troops home, have them on our borders. If somebody's dumb enough to attack us, we'll slap them around like nobody's business. We spend more than the next seven biggest countries combined on war, not defense, on war. We're in 150 countries around the world. We're subsidizing all of Europe's defense. We're subsidizing Japan's defense. We're spending $1 trillion a year on war. What does it cost to defend a country like this? I don't know, 300 billion. So we're wasting like $600 billion just going around and occupying countries. And the reason why it seems like we're not at war right now is because nobody's talking about it. We're in 7 active military conflicts. We're actively involved in a genocide in Yemen, and nobody cares. So
wait,
Trump
how are we involved in the genocide in Yemen?
So the Yemenis people are actually being I consider it systemic extermination.
You can keep talking, but I'm going to bring everybody in. But you can keep talking.
Oh, yeah. So Saudi Arabia is exterminating a political or a particular race in that area, and they're located in Yemen. They're being sanctioned, they're being bombed, and they're actually being actively killed. The military equipment that it's being used to do this, and the airplanes that they have, and the military equipment is all from the United States. We're consistently giving Saudi Arabia basically free range, and we're not condemning them. This is an actual genocide. If you look at the numbers, there's starvation. It is not okay. So that's one of them. But we have Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan. We're currently in Libya. We're still fighting the ISIS thing. We're in everywhere, and it's insane because we don't talk about it anymore. It's like, here's the thing about Obama. The anti-war left was great under Bush. Where'd they go under Obama? He was doing the same stuff, except it was only 5 countries. Now we're in 7 countries. It's insane. So I'm sorry. That's a personal thing for me. I hate war because it's just like legalized mass genocide, and it's not okay. We should be defensive. We should not be involving. The reason why a lot of the attacks happen on us is because we're poking people. We're overthrowing governments. We overthrew Venezuela's government. We overthrew the Shah in Iran in 1953. And what happened? They took our hostages. And so that's why we reap what we sow.
So you believe that a lot of the things that have happened to America were because we were helping or doing humanitarian efforts for other countries?
I don't consider them humanitarian efforts if you're killing kids, bombing hospitals, and overthrowing elected governments. That's not humanitarian. That's a cover. Humanitarian is a cover for us propping up oil companies in the Middle East and us propping up corporations in Central America. That's humanitarian. That's not okay.
Does anyone else have any
Justice?
rights?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Justice, since he kind of interjected there. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think he made a great point in the very beginning about just war, which is Augustine's theory about whether or not a war is just. That's the original sort of philosophical conversation on whether or not war is just. Obviously, sometimes war is just, right? Like it is just for England to fight against Nazi Germany in the World War II. So sometimes war is necessary. There's the saying, war is politics by other means. I think one thing that is important to keep in note in our context is that we live in a society where everybody is against war. The Democrats are pacifists. The people on the right are mostly libertarian, non-interventionists. It's very unfashionable to be a war hawk right now. And so there might actually be something to it, because whenever the herd is all going in one direction, you might want to watch out for the cliff. I think that the other point that James was making that's just pretty naive is this idea that war only comes in like one category, which is like, this is just This is merely a front for some sort of like oil move or some sort of power play. Like there are people who want to go to war for just cause. Like a lot of people wanted to go liberate Hong Kong. A lot of people wanted to liberate Venezuela. A lot of people in Venezuela right now would probably be a lot better off if we got that like insane communist out of office. So there is sometimes that I think it's useful to go to war. I think the other thing that we need to admit, just acknowledge, is that we've been at war for the last 30 years with China and we don't even know it. China wrote a book, the People's Liberation Army wrote a book in the 90s called Unrestricted Warfare that lays out basically a Cold War strategy against the United States that they have been enacting for the last several decades. And we've known about it, but our elite, who are overwhelmingly secular, non-interventionist globalists, never talk about it. And so this is why China has got investments in all of our major media companies, has got investments in all of our major technology companies. It's a major problem. And so like the question before that I didn't get to answer was, what has Trump done to make America great? And that's a great question. I think one thing that he's done is he's been tough on China. We need to be even tougher on China. But the fact is that only like 1% of Americans have the balls to say when it's a good idea to go to war. And with China, it's absolutely an existential threat to all of Western civilization. I think we've seen that with the coronavirus nonsense. We need to get tough on China. If it means going to war, it means going to war. And honestly, there's such an evil, wicked, secular, communist regime. I think it would probably be a good thing and a net benefit to society.
So you don't agree with Thomas Jefferson and the founders that we do not
Thomas
need to
Jefferson.
go out?
I don't agree with Thomas Jefferson on almost anything.
Well, let me finish the question. So the founders specifically said that we do not need to be the world's policeman and that we do not need to go out
founder said
search in. Let me finish my quote.
Okay.
The United States.
Respectful. Okay, let him.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're okay. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
The quote was exactly that we do not need to be in search of monsters to destroy, and this was actually specifically out of John Adams, the elder. We do not need to be a nation in search of monsters to destroy around the world, lest we find ourselves in foreign entanglements. So basically, and also, how can you argue we're non-interventionist when we're in 150 countries and 7 active war zones? And how can you argue that
one thing at a time? Can I answer one of these questions?
Well, you got to make a whole bunch of points, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the non-interventionist point, I think, is like most Republicans and conservatives right now do adopt the non-interventionist libertarian stance. That is the popular position on the left, or on the right now. On the left, I actually think the left is becoming a little bit more interventionist than like I remember like 10 or 20 years ago. So, I'll concede that, yeah, there might be a little bit more than 1% of Americans who are, pro-intervention. Yeah, I'm not looking for monsters to destroy. I'm not saying we need to look for monsters to destroy. I'm saying that China has been committing acts of war against us for 20 years, and we are pretending that it's not happening, and that is stupid, obviously. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, and this, we can talk about this forever, but here's another topic that I'm pretty sure you guys will go back and forth on. Alex, do you want to handle the next question?
Yes. So, does the United States have a gun problem? We have a lot of city shootings. We have a lot of mass shootings. We have, as we all know, the Kyle Rittenhouse situation where he went to another state with a gun that didn't belong to him, and he ended up shooting 2 people and killing them, and then shooting a 3rd person and injuring them by 7. There has been a lot of tug and pull on that topic of what to do with guns. So I would like to know, should we just leave it alone or should we do something about it? So I'm going to throw it to the NRA guy, Chris, first, and then afterwards, Lynda.
Hey, quick before I get to guns, I had to comment a little something on it real quick. Well, the military, I know soldiers who tell you I have a relative who is in a special ops, and or he's been in the military, and he'll tell you, just like many other military, that tell you that when they go over there, they're actually doing a lot of good. I mean, if you only say the war and you only look at the one point of it, you don't realize that America has a lot of good. And going over the countries, a lot of military has helped people. You don't hear much of it talked about, but going to the military over there with the war. And one quick thing, Trump has pulled the troops out. Obama and he's been pulling the troops out. with the military. And as for foreign policy, Rick, with the war situation, he has been nominated for 4 Nobel Peace Prize. So that's my quick answering about the military. We do need a strong military force because the world out there, they don't look at the things that we do. We're Americans. We look at things different than what the world does. They look at power. And if we don't have a good, secure power base in our country, we're just going to get overruled by them. A quick thing about guns. Okay, well, we know it's Constitution right to bear arms. The reason why it's important is because you have the right to protect your family, your loved one, property. If we don't have that, all we do is give more powers to the criminals. We don't give power to the citizens. And the more laws you try to put to restrict on gun rights, all that does is give more power to the military. To the criminals. Look at places that have tight gun bans, such as New York City. It doesn't do anything for the crime. Crime's still going to happen. Are important because it helps just give us that independence to protect. So if a cop isn't around the corner and there's someone that's going to try and rape or kill your family, you have the right to protect your family. And that's why it's important to have the freedom that we have with the guns. I don't like Biden's policy with the guns, although he won't say it. He's eventually wanting to ban guns. I mean, I went to his site. You can look at his website. It's pretty legit with the stuff he has. It's pretty harsh about guns, and he's not about the second. And you can read it in his policies. But I'm not going to go through that. But that's my quick note on that. I'm very firm in the right to bear arms, protect your family and loved ones, and that's where I stand.
Okay, so you're saying that you believe that Joe Biden is trying to abolish the Second Amendment.
Minutes up already?
Yeah. So hey, just also be clear.
Well, too, I think. Well, go ahead.
To be clear, you don't think that we should do anything with guns whatsoever? No. This be really quick because I gotta go, Lynda. There should be no changes whatsoever. You don't want guns touched at all.
I don't think we need to do anything with the guns. I really don't. Okay. Don't think we need to do any special policies with the guns. Yeah, I don't think we need to change anything regarding.
All right, cool. Lynda, can you give a response?
I can be real quick. I do hope people will go to Joe Biden's website, joebiden.com, and read about his issues, because no, Joe Biden does not want to abolish the Second Amendment. I think polls show that the vast majority of Americans actually believe in a few different things that we should do, like assault rifles and background checks. There are some things that people actually, Republicans and Democrats, majority of actually agree on, and I think we should move on those. And I don't know if it's okay. I don't want to be disrespectful of your flow, but if I could yield some time here to Marissa, I'd love to.
No, definitely. She was my next pick, and then I have a follow-up that I'd like to go with the two people I know love guns, which are the remainder two gentlemen. So.
Thank you, Lynda, for that. No, Biden doesn't want to abolish the Second Amendment. I think a lot of right-wing conspiracy groups spread that type of misinformation around. And if you would, I mean, it's as simple as a quick Google search. He's not trying to take your guns. As far as
his website literally says he's trying to ban guns. Get weapons of war off our streets. The bans on assault rifles and high-capacity magazines that Biden, along with Senator Feinstein, secured in '94, reduced the lethality of mass shootings. But in order to secure the passage of the bans, they had to agree to a 10-year sunset provision when the time came. We want to ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. We want to regulate the possession of existing assault weapons.
So it's a specific type of gun that he's not actually abolishing the Second Amendment.
But that's what the Second Amendment is for.
I want to make that clear.
So you're not being clear if you're not clear about what the Second Amendment is for. The Second Amendment is for the
right
civilians' right to bear arms because. Oh yeah, no, but you have to be able to defend yourself from the government. The whole point is that you're able to defend yourself. Hey, James, hop in on this because you know the whole point.
Wait. Let us allow Marissa to finish her point, and then you guys will have the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Marissa.
Thank you. I don't understand why people assume that banning AR-15s is taking away all guns. It's not. That's not a thing. I think that a lot of people are very paranoid by these conspiracy theories that are always coming up.
It's
And
on
it's
his
always right
website.
around election time. And it's always, wow, I'm not Kamala Harris. So we're gonna get this wrapped up real quick. As far as any stipulations being on guns, laws, regulations, all of that, I say let anybody have whatever it is that they want. I mean, because eventually it's going to get in the wrong hands, and then we're going to have the right type of regulations that we need. People aren't going to understand that unless you put them in the thick of it. You let anybody take an AR-15. I guarantee you, there's going to be some proper rules and regulations. But until that happens, you're not going to get anything out of anybody. People are too paranoid that everybody's going to come and take their guns. It happens every election cycle. The Democrats are coming to take your guns. Nobody's ever come to take your guns. Obama had 8 years to take your guns. He never took your guns. Biden's not going to take your guns. Guns aren't going anywhere. Point blank.
Well, so weird because communists are always taking the guns. Like,
you're
they
right,
took the guns
Dave.
in Venezuela, they took the guns in Australia, they took the guns in New Zealand.
Let me give
They
a
take the guns
follow-up.
every single time they get the chance.
America.
And the fact
This
is,
America.
because we have the Second Amendment that says we have the right to
Right,
bear
so-
arms. And the whole point of the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms is so that we can defend ourselves against a well-regulated
we
militia.
have to
Yeah.
allow everybody
So-
the right to
The right
speak.
to bear arms.
And,
Because
so
if we
let me-
don't give, I'm gonna have to mute. I'm gonna have to mute because we have to give everybody the chance to speak. Because
without
when
feeling
audio we can't hear each other. So when we play this back on audio, it's like, what are they saying? So that's why we need to make sure that everybody is getting a chance. So go ahead, Alex.
So let me give a follow-up, and James and Justice, you guys can answer the question. I guess piggyback off each other with this. Would there be any gun legislation that you would be okay with if it was implemented? That would be my question for the two of you. So, James, you go first, and then Justice, you can go last. We both know that you guys are very pro-guns, and you guys don't feel that there's a gun problem in America. So, what about that follow-up question?
So the first thing, I mean, the first question about the guns was, what do I think needs to be changed about the guns? Well, I'm going to be completely honest. One of the main reasons why I am very pro-gun is because I think more minorities need guns. All right. So I did a ton of research back in the founding of the United States when they were still colonies, all the way up through modern times. And systemically, every single gun law that was ever passed, every single gun legislation, gun confiscation was aimed directly and explicitly at minorities and especially African Americans. The reason why is because they were all scared of slave uprisings and revolts. So systemically, if you look at every single gun control legislation from every single state, it was an average of every 3 years, they would pass a new, stricter, where they could go into somebody's house and take anything that could be dangerous so they couldn't defend themselves. So my first point is that every single tragedy that has befallen minorities around the world, and especially in the United States, is partly because they can't defend themselves. So I'm very pro-gun, especially for the people that are minorities. And I mean that because minorities are the ones that get beat up on and taken advantage of. So if you look at minorities, whether you're white or you're black, or whether you're poor, you're rich or whatever, it's the minorities that need guns so they don't get stepped on. And I think that's one of the things that keeps the United States free. And it's not that I'm saying that there's not a problem with violence, because there is. And guns are a choice of people that want to use violence on other people. But I think that it's something to consider is the implications of if you disarm people, if you disarm everyone, including minorities, we're just going to revert to oppressing minorities again. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying that whatever minority there is, and I'm not just specifically talking about black, white, Hispanic. I'm talking about whether you're associated with a particular group or whether you're poor, because that was the other thing, is they started regulating that poor people couldn't have guns. So I think it is an equalizer in the broader sense, and I think it's kind of naive to not think that bad things will happen to minorities if the minorities are not armed. Now, interestingly enough, the NFAC down in Georgia has kind of taken this and run with it. There's that group that's not fucking around coalition. It's all armed African-American men and women, and they march just to show that they have weapons. They don't use them. They just say, hey, don't fuck with us. And on top of that, there is a new organization called Black Guns Matter, led by Maj Toure up in Philly. Great dude. He teaches firearm training for inner city people, de-escalation, conflict resolution, so that we don't shoot each other when we're mad. Right. And I think these things are important. We're not responsible gun owners a lot of times. So I think education and training is really important. But I also think if you start taking things away from people, minorities are going to have it the worst, because it happens in history every single time. Talking about Greenwood, talking about North Tulsa, talking about Nazi Germany, talking about every single genocide you can possibly imagine. It's against minorities, and they don't have the way to defend themselves. So I think it's a broader conversation there. It's how much do we want to limit minorities' ability to defend themselves? That's a really important topic.
So I don't think you answered that. I want to be real quick, because we are.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So Justice, I'll give it to you, since you are definitely. I know.
Yeah, I'm pro gun because I'm pro having the ability to defend myself against a despotic government, which was the whole point of the First Amendment. It's only about one thing. It's about the sovereignty of the people. Guns are not the problem. The culture is the problem. You look at cities like Baltimore or Chicago, where you've got all the gun control laws in the world, you still have a bunch of gun shootings every year. Why? Because the culture. We need, if I was going to accept, I would accept gun legislation. Let me tell you what I'd accept. I'd accept an amendment that clarifies that the Second Amendment is specifically about any gun that the military can have, American citizens can have, because we're America and we need to be able to defend ourselves. We're not like New Zealand or Australia, where if the government becomes a despotic tyranny, you've got big brother America to come and get you out of it. We don't have that. The American people need to be sovereign over the American government. The American government is the biggest threat to liberty all over the world. And if without an armed populace in the United States, without an armed civilian population, it's just a non-starter. Like, we will devolve to despotic tyranny in a decade, which is exactly what happened in Venezuela. Oh my gosh, we need more gun education. That's what we need. I would accept legislation around gun education. I would accept legislation that gets more guns into civilian households, that teaches people about guns. Every time I talk to a leftist, they don't know literally anything about guns. I'd support legislation that clarifies the First Amendment. They won't disarm us because we won't be disarmed. The issue's a non-starter.
Okay. All right. So we have a little bit of time left for our last topic. Does anyone that is not as pro-gun have any kind of counter-argument? Okay. All right. Throw it to you, Leise. Last topic.
All right. So let's move on to something that's going on right now. So we were talking about rules and regulations. I've heard a lot of people say and talk about what one administration did versus what the other administration has done. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. So what are your thoughts on the latest Supreme Court nomination process, and why has politics become so just volatile, where it seems like it's not even about the right or wrong? It's not about what we should and shouldn't do. It seems like it's just, I want to do this because I don't like this party. So I'm going to ask Marissa first. Okay. I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts in watching what's going on with, because you are progressive, with the seat of Miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
No, but it's her seat.
It's her seat.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Not anymore.
Well, it was her seat.
I think it's such a dog and pony show. And it has absolutely no substance to it. They questioned her on all of these different policies for several days, and she didn't give a straight answer to not any of them, especially not the ones that people are really looking closely to, like Roe v. Wade. She wouldn't give a clear answer. They asked her, I think, 3 or 4 different times, okay, but do you think that Roe v. Wade should be overturned? And she kept just bobbing and weaving that question. And
but why?
I mean, exactly. Why even have these proceedings if these people aren't even going to answer the damn question?
Because the Ginsburg rule.
I mean, huh?
You know what the Ginsburg rule is?
No, we know the Ginsburg rule. Let Marissa.
Well, but wait. Apparently, we don't.
No, we do.
So why don't you explain what it is?
The Ginsburg rule basically say you're not going to give any kind of preview of how you're going to rule on certain policies, especially ones that are more controversial.
And why does that rule exist?
To not be able to tilt the thing in one way, but I do want to let Marissa
Finish
her thing.
Yeah, I think everyone's guilty of interrupting, including myself, but we really need to let some people talk. So
go ahead, Marissa.
Okay. Basically, it's a dog and pony show. There's if you look at our political system as a whole, it's not structurally sound. Okay. It's not meant to be sustainable, especially from this point on. So you're seeing all of these cracks and crevices in every single corner of our government. This is just a small one. This is just a very, very small one. But this entire government, this entire system, it's not sustainable. So you're going to have issues like Amy Coney Barrett refusing to answer questions. You're going to have issues like a two-party system. You're going to have issues like a Donald Trump and a Joe Biden running for president. There's so many cracks. It's hard to try and explain just one. This is one of the very, very many non-sustainable factors of our system. So I don't have that much of an opinion about this because it's all a tap dance. It's all a tap dance to keep the people entertained while they fuck you around.
Hey, so when I this question was brought up, and this is for anyone else who answers it, when we talk about the process, not necessarily the nominee herself, but the process of how Obama was denied the opportunity to put a Supreme Court justice up 10 months prior to the election, and then it being she's not even on there. We have a couple weeks before we can vote again. They're appointing a justice, and the people that were denying it are the people that are actually appointing. So,
okay, is anyone going to explain why that is the way that is?
We understand it. We just want to understand. Well, what is your
but people might not understand it. Like the reason Obama didn't get what's his face, Merrick Garland, is because that he didn't have the Senate. The Democrats didn't have the Senate, so like the Senate gets to confirm the judges. This time you have a Republican president and a Republican Senate. They get to confirm the justice. Like the procedure here is working exactly how it's intended to work. The whole idea that the Ginsburg rule was a Democrat thing in the 90s, and that's the only reason that ACB couldn't answer the questions. It's like hilarious that the process is like we don't even understand the process, obviously, because if we understood the process, nobody would be bitching about Merrick Garland and nobody would be bitching about ACB. But because we don't understand the process and we've got a whole half the country that's apparently dedicated to making sure people don't understand, then of course they're going to have these complaints every single time. Like we have like we are the alternative media. Why aren't we explaining why the Merrick Garland confirmation was never going to happen, and why aren't we explaining why ACB can't answer the questions because of the Democrat rule that was put in place in the 90s?
But like, do you understand the hypocrisy? Like I think a lot of people were upset with the hypocrisy.
It's not hypocrisy. It's just politics. It's how you play the game. If you're in control of the Senate, you're going to confirm your nominees. If you're not in control of the Senate, you're not going to.
That part, but I think with them verbalizing, I think with them verbalizing and what you're saying, if what you're saying is in fact true, when you have people like a Lindsey Graham who is verbalizing this, and he didn't explain it the way that you're explaining. He did not say that. He just said that.
Did you read like, the letter that came out? The letter that came out right after Ginsburg died. It illustrated it perfectly. And at the time he illustrated it perfectly. Like, why would a Senate confirm a nominee from the opposite party if they don't have to, if they've got an election looming around the corner? Now, if you are of the same party, you have every incentive to confirm the justice, which is why ACB got confirmed, and she should have, because she was a wonderful lady. And we should all celebrate the success of qualified people who make it. And we should be happy when the government works. Like, this should be a bipartisan. Everyone should be happy about Amy Coney Barrett. ACB is a star. It's awesome.
Okay, so let me before I throw it to you, James. The Constitution does not say when the Senate and the presidency are Republican or both Democrat that's how you get the nominee on the court. And the reason why they specifically did not give Obama the opportunity was because of it was an election year. It wasn't based off of we're a Republican majority Senate. so we're not going to see it. We're not going to see your nominee. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's not the excuse that they're using now does not apply. But James, go ahead. What is your thoughts on the process?
Well, I'm going to answer quickly what's going on now and then kind of take it to a little philosophical perspective. One, if you look at the Obama's confirmation or Obama's nomination versus this one, the Democrats are making the same arguments that the Republicans are making now, and vice versa. It's politics. I mean, Justice has a really good point that it's all, and so does Marissa. It's all a dog and pony show, and none of it really means anything. And each party is going to do whatever's advantageous to them. They don't care. They're going to make the arguments, and some people are going to buy it, some people are not going to buy it. But I think it's all kind of silly. Here's the broader perspective, though. Here's the important piece. The important piece is, why is everyone so worried about the Supreme Court? It's because they have so much power in Washington. So John Marshall was the first Supreme Court justice. He was nominated by John Adams. And the reason why he was actually the 11th pick, he's the 11th guy that was asked, is because there was no power in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court read the Constitution and for word and said, hey, does this match up? No. And if it doesn't match up, hey, legislature, you have to go amend the Constitution. That's what we did for all of American history. Now, nobody listens to the Constitution. Nobody follows the process. So all of the power is in the president and the Supreme Court. And if you have those people, you run the show, and there's no limit to what you can do to other people, which is why we're fighting each other so much. They shouldn't have this much power. It should all be local. If they put us at each other's throats and they laugh at us while we fight like this.
Awesome. Okay. So does anyone else have anything else different to add?
Can I throw something in there yet, guys?
Go, Chris.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was just gonna say, the one thing with the Supreme Court, in my opinion, I really think everyone's making way too much of a big deal with this thing. I think what Yates and Graham actually pointed out, and so did Ted Cruz, I think the important thing is Amy Bennett. I think it's Bennett or Brennett. I forget how you say it. But, you know, I think what's really important is her credentials. And she has the highest credentials. And it's a big deal about it. She's there to interpret the law, you know, and I think the Democrats and everyone is making a big deal about, you know, look at her credentials, look at her as a person instead of worrying about the political game. Look at her as a person. And another thing about not answering those questions, well, it's right to answer the question because someday she will have to deal with some of those cases and she doesn't want to give the answer ahead of time. So I think everything went fine with it. I don't know why we have to make a big deal about it, but we have a tendency to deal with that because we're always trying to find some side or other. Trump's trying to do this. I think we just look at her as credentials, and I think that's what we need to be focused on. And I think Amy Bennett, way too much of it. I think Canada, I think she'll be great for the Supreme Court.
Okay. Anyone, Lynda, did you have anything to add? You're the only one that didn't.
That's my opinion.
Yes, I do. Voter suppression, voting rights, gerrymandering, dark money in politics, all of those things do eventually make their way up to the Supreme Court. It's a long game. The Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, have been playing. It's a long game to rule by minority instead of trying to figure out how to win back the hearts and minds of the majority. You look at the autopsy after the 2013 RNC autopsy. They laid out the pathway for Republicans to start winning elections again, which was, you know, to really try to stoop to more of a majority than they were. And they didn't follow that. They decided to try to pack the courts and gerrymander and do
That's
all
not what pack the court means.
But they have been. It is what it means.
No, pack the court means.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. The Republicans aren't trying to pack the court. I think
every
Joe
single
Biden
time.
members
Okay,
are
one minute,
the
one at a
ones that
time,
don't want
one
to
at a
answer
time.
to whether or not they want to
Mute
pack
it,
the
mute it.
court.
Wait a second, y'all. So first off, if you guys are, she did not speak while you guys were speaking. So if you give her an opportunity to finish, we can give you an opportunity to give a response to it.
I understand that they will disagree. That's okay.
Can you define pack the court though?
But you're talking about specifically the Supreme Court. I'm saying in general, all these.
Yeah, no, but the phrase "pack the court," what does it mean? because you're making it sound like it means something that it doesn't mean. And this is the whole problem, is when people either lie or ignorantly use words that they don't understand.
I'm sorry, I am not lying or using it ignorantly. I'm saying there's more than one definition to it.
That's not
not respectful. That's not respectful, because you're starting to go into the
But that's fine. I've said what I'm going to say. I understand they're going to disagree with it. I don't.
And that's fine. So the point, so everyone.
So can someone who knows what pack the courts mean please define it for the audience?
Okay, hold on a second. So, Justice, please don't try to attack someone's intelligence or phrases if they don't know what they're talking about, because that's going to around disrespect.
So wait, are we just allowed to use, like, am I allowed to start speaking in a different language entirely, or does there need to be some sort of common?
You can say, I disagree with how you're phrasing.
No say nada, la dama say nada. Is that like what I'm? Come on.
So just so that we're clear, I think what she's
Words
trying
mean
to say is putting weight to the court so that it's more conservative leaning. Well, pack the court is sort of what Joe Biden has been avoiding, which is whether or not he will add more justices to the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
So that's basically the difference between the two. But I think that's not what she was saying. She's trying to say,
right,
make it a
this
more
is what happens is that when we
conservative.
have an issue, which is whether or not Joe Biden is going to pack the Supreme Court, which is what they intend to do, and is the question that he doesn't want to answer, then what the left has been doing is that they changed the definition of the phrase pack the courts to mean, oh, when we confirm justices. No, your job is to confirm justices. The whole reason we elect politicians is to confirm justice. I mean, not the whole reason, but a big
I would hope not.
Well, I mean, that's their job. That's their job. That is the role of the elected official.
So we go with that, right? The job's to elect officials. Then they should have elected or at least voted on the one that
we did. We elected Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has the authority to appoint justice. Let me finish. You guys yell at me when I interrupt. But he has the authority to appoint justices, and the Senate has the right to confirm or deny. And so that's just the way that it works. So Obama had the authority to appoint, but he doesn't have the authority to confirm. The Senate has the authority to confirm. It's just the way the process works. I don't understand why the left has to lie and make up words and use words in a way. They try to twist the definition so that they can win the argument instead of actually winning the argument, which is the procedure. If you don't like the procedure, get a constitutional amendment passed. Like, use the process. But instead, they have to change the process. And it's so funny, the hypocrisy that she was just stating. She was saying, "Oh, well, conservatives can't win elections, so what they do is they pack the court," in her terms. That's not true at all. But that's exactly what the left does, is that they appoint justices who legislate on the bench, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and conservatives are just like, I just want people who just follow the Constitution. It's
well, we'll get to that in a minute, because I think that, again, it, like we've been saying for a while, it's politics. So both parties are, or pretty much any political party is going to have some of that. One doesn't matter what the party is. Just saying. But let's talk, because one of the reasons why I think that it is so important for this change is because of religion. We've heard a lot of the talk about religion in politics, especially when we're talking about the Supreme Court nominee. And I want to ask you, because one of the questions that Alex put in here is, should religion play a bigger part in policies, and does the Constitution speak against it? So this is a very interesting topic here. And I know that some people are more passionate about this topic than others. So I want to make sure that everybody can be heard. So we're going to all do one at a time. We're going to speak one at a time. So I want to get James. I know you, because you are not really on the far right or the far left. You're kind of in your own lane. So I want to ask you, should religion play a bigger part in policies, and does the Constitution speak against it?
So I think in general, religion is it's a very personal thing. And I think it's very important. There's a lot of good that religion can do in somebody's individual life. And I think that respecting that and understanding that, and not trying to, force ideas on people is really important, especially to religion. So I think that respect of other people's religion should be the part that plays in policy, and not trying to impose one's religion on somebody else. I don't care what religion it is, but respecting that all religions, they're very personal. And so you have kind of control of how you implement your religion in your own life. So I think that's the extent to which religion should play in politics. I do believe that the Constitution does not really allow for the government to impose, at least the federal Constitution does not really impose. Actually, it explicitly says that it shouldn't. So I don't think that policies that are religiously based should be imposed on other people. I think it's a very personal thing. I think it's improper for government to impose those things on people.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like I heard somebody laugh. So
yeah. So
well, I know it's not expressly said in the Constitution, but it's an express doctrine from the Constitution, which I think was fairly based. So I do understand that it is not expressly said in the Constitution, but it is derived from the Constitution.
And Chris, I guess I want to get you in here. Do you think religion should play a bigger part in policies? And does the Constitution speak to it?
I would answer that yes and no. As for the freedom of religion, when it says like one part in the Constitution about freedom for separation from church and government, that's really talking about that you can't be like one religion and makes best example is you look at history of like the Roman Orthodox Catholic Church, where if you weren't a Catholic, they would kill you, put you in prison. Now, as for freedom to exercise, part of your faith, is freedom to exercise that whether you're in politics or not. And I think it's fair. I think, in my opinion, a person of faith would be more fair because they have values and morals to be in the politics rather than people that have none. If someone that doesn't have any ethics or morals, like an atheist, well, they'll do whatever they want to. But a person of faith that has ethics and morals are not going to take a bribe. They're not going to, at least they're not opposed to. People who are real people of faith, they're not going to take a bribe. They're going to try to do the best to keep justified justice and try to keep peace at the same time. So I think yes and no. I mean, it's as a person, character, I think they are a better politician if they are fully, if they're full with their faith and they follow through with it. The problem is a lot of people who say that, well, I'm a person of faith. Well, they don't practice it. They don't exercise. You can you can put names on you all you want to, but it's if you're legit, you're going to act on your faith. And, if, I can't say much for other people's faith. All I know as a Christian, my faith is about loving your neighbor, being justful, make decisions that are based on fairness and that sort of thing, so it's like, I think as for it goes, I think, yes, you should be a person of faith and still be not afraid to get in politics because you have those morals, you have those ethics that if you really live by them, if you're really truly faithful to your ethics, you're going to exercise that as a politician, not cheat, not be honest, not try to push bad laws and stuff. Now, if you're trying to make a one religion or trying to push the United States, make everyone Muslim in the United States, if you're not with the other countries, if you're not Muslim, you'll be persecuted, even killed. So that is where I think is the dividing line when you talk about separation from religion and politics. Not that that as a politician that you can't exercise that or be a Christian in politics. I think it's important, and I think the people who take their faith real and they live that way, I think they make a better politician than someone that doesn't. That's my answer.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I guess we're going to go to Justice. I know you are very passionate about this topic, so I want to ask you, should religion play a bigger part in policies, and does the Constitution speak to it or speak against it?
Well, what the Constitution says in the First Amendment is that Congress, specifically Congress, meaning at the federal level, shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So what that means is that the Congress at the federal level shall not basically make a state religion, because that's what the founders were coming from, is the Anglican Church and the Church of England, and that being a state religion. So I mean, you got to understand that at the time that this was written, they were all Christians kind of living out a Christian worldview and having a debate among denominations. So the concern was that no one Christian denomination would become the state religion. So that's the intent behind the First Amendment. And of course, the most important part is actually the prohibiting the free exercise thereof part, because the whole point is that as an individual, you need to have the right to practice your religion, no matter what that means. And for Christians, obviously, the idea of religion being a purely private matter is nonsensical, of course, because most religion is actually community based, and the unit of the individual is core to New Testament theology, but to Old Testament theology, the nation is actually an actor at the religious level. So the Constitution says there shall be no establishment of religion at the federal level. States actually have had state religions before. So like I think in like 1833, Massachusetts had a state religion. So I think at the state level it's totally different. I think if anything, we do need more religious people in office, and especially at the educational level. The secularism of our education system has been a complete and unmitigated disaster. Most people are lost in their lives because they do not understand where we've come from as a people or as a species, and it's because so much of our wisdom from ancient people is being withheld from them by a postmodern secularist education state that only cares about their false religion, which is secularism. I mean, secularism is a religion. So, I mean, the question is like, should religion play more of a role? That's not actually the question, because religion inherently plays a role. If you're not a Christian, your atheism or whatever religion you are is playing a role in your decision making. So I think really we need to frame it like religion is a fact of life. Everybody has a religion, whether or not you know it, and that you are acting your religion out. That atheists are acting their religion out, secularists are acting their religion out, Christians are often poorly acting their religion out. So rather than framing around how much religion is in the public sphere, because religion is inherently in the public sphere, there's nothing we can do or not do about it.
Okay. And Alex, you want to go ahead and kind of round thing?
I want to
or you want to give a rebuttal?
I want to give a personal rebuttal. I mean, I can give a follow-up, but we would be here. I mean, we have like 5 minutes, but
yeah.
Lynda and Marissa, do you have anything that's different than what's been said? The three gentlemen basically said that, well, James said that he does not believe that religion should play a part in policy, but Chris and Justice are in agreement. So do you both have anything that's different than what's been said? Marissa, you first.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. It's a touchy subject, but no. I mean, absolutely not. Religion dictates morals, right? And we put these labels on morals, what's moralistic and what isn't. And that's just silly, because there's a lot of different faiths. There's a lot of religions that believe one way is moral, and a lot of religions that believe another way is moral. So you're never going to be able to get on the same page when you have all of these different ways of thinking. So no, religion should not play a part in any policy. And what your faith is or lack thereof, because there's a lot of faiths out there right now, like African spirituality, or Yoruba or Ifa, that a lot of people have absolutely no clue about. And you start talking about stuff like that, and they automatically, oh, she's into voodoo and she's gonna do this and do that. And then it takes away from what you're trying to do. When you're adding religion into policy, that's just adding more problems. You're never going to get to the root of anything. You're never going to solve anything. So no, we shouldn't have religion or any made up moralistic characters to help further along with policy. Absolutely not.
Okay. Lynda, do you have anything different or your own perspective?
Oh, wait. I have her muted. Who's unmuted?
Oh, okay. Oh, shit.
I mean, my faith informs, what I believe. I don't think I should impose my faith on other people, but I, believe in the moral movement of Reverend Barber, and I think we should have moral budgets, and that we should, take care of our neighbors. And I think I would leave it as simple as that.
Okay. All right. So to round up the podcast, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to pretend that you're a politician getting ready to go into Washington, and whatever policy that you wanted to implement, that it would automatically hit like this, but it would have to be something that you have not seen spoke on, or something that's been neglected. Like, for example, term limits, something that Washington would never agree to. So I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to give their own policy that they would love to see tackled by government. And then also I would like to know what your predictions are for this election.
All right.
So let's go with Marissa, and then we'll we'll work it back.
Okay.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to go a little bit backwards because I didn't get a chance to answer this question. I just want to touch on a couple of things, and I'll make it super quick. But as far as Black people getting voting for Trump or Biden or whoever, I don't think that anybody should. We're not a monolith, okay? 50 Cent came out pro-Trump because he's like, I'm not for all those Biden taxes. Hey, that makes absolute sense to me, but I don't have 50 Cent money, so I'm not doing all of that. So to go on that question, we're not a monolith. I don't think that anybody should be telling all of Black people to vote for any particular candidate. Now, with that being said, as I said before, this is a non-sustainable society. We screwed up too much. We fucked up entirely way too much from the inception of this country all the way up until now. We have fucked up completely. Now, policies that I would like to see, what I'm specifically looking for when I say a Black agenda, there's only one thing that could really make things right, which is reparations policy. But nobody's ever come up with that. Not one that's actually doable. No, I don't mean just cash. No, I don't mean just this. No, I don't mean just that. Not every Black person has been to prison. Not every Black person went to an HBCU. So when I say for Black people, I mean exactly that. However, that's never going to happen. The only way that I see America surviving these next 4 years, regardless of who's president, is if it absolutely crumbles and then we just rebuild with a resource-based economy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Venus Project, but definitely check out the Venus Project. There's a great documentary on their website, and I've been looking into that for several years. That's about the only thing that I can see being somewhat sustainable, because it's not it. It's gonna crash. This isn't a thing. So that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. So, James, what about you? I know that the Libertarian Party has a lot of unique ideas. So what's one thing that you think government could do that they have not even considered thinking about?
Well, I think that question is, what could they not do that they could stop doing to keep people down and take their stuff and make our lives a little bit harder? I think probably there's a whole plethora of things: end the drug war, bring the troops home, stop bailing out corporations, give them money to people that are politically connected. I think all of that's wrong, and it's geared toward the politically connected as opposed to the little guy. But I think one policy that maybe people haven't come across before is the Federal Reserve. I would absolutely get rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the controller of the money. Essentially, when government needs money, instead of raising it in taxes, they print the money and they spend it. The people that spend the money first get the highest value in the economy. The rest of the ripple effect causes prices to rise up before the rest of us have time to get raises or make more money or anything like that. So it's essentially a siphon of wealth from the poor to the very rich and politically connected. And I think if we start there, we can kind of end a lot of the inflation, end this invisible tax of the Federal Reserve and the control of the money supply, and put the power back into people's hands that are either low income or fixed income people, and not try to have this huge group of people that are trying to be near Washington to get the first use of this new money. I think that creates malincentives, and I think that politicians start selling their power that way. So I think that would do a lot of good in the long run to help people, be more sustainable and not look to Washington.
Gotcha. Awesome. So, Chris, I'll throw it to you. Is there any ideas that you have that you would like to see?
I think, when I was talking to you, Alex, when we were on the phone at one time, you mentioned something what I thought was a really good thing. I really think, I really believe in it. We were talking about term limits. I think that's a really good thing. We should have term limits. Like people like Nancy Pelosi that has been there like forever. She's 8 years old. And, I think with term limits, that really will help, because the problem is when people stay in a seat for so long, it's just a matter of time. You're used to the power, you're used to the money, you're used to the control you have, and that's where corruption leads. I think term limits helps us to have someone in the seat, and if they're not doing a good job, you can vote them out and put someone else in it. So who can do a better job? Maybe someone younger, maybe someone who's more active and thinking about America first. So I think term limits is a big one. I think term limits. I also think another one would be more transparency in our government. I haven't been really happy with the FBI, what they have done, and we've seen, well, if people are following, I've seen the FBI haven't been doing a good job with some things. So I think transparency. I think more patriotism, which I know Trump said he wants to do that as well. We need more patriotism. I think we need better education as well. I think we need to have a better curriculum in education to help the students of the future, and whether it's students in elementary school, middle school, or college, to actually appreciate what great country we have. Bring back that patriotism and stop like in colleges are so left leaning and liberal. You don't even want to be in America with some of their ideas. I mean, you see the attacks on like you can't stand for a pledge allegiance because it offends you. Maybe they've people. There's a lot of secularism, a lot of left leaning in the colleges. So I think there's a couple things that matter to me. And term limits is one of the big ones. Better education, patriotism, and transparency, accountability. Those are mine.
Well, definitely see eye to eye on accountability, the term limits for sure, because it should, and transparency. I think all three of those are really good suggestions. So, Lynda, I'm gonna throw it to you. Are there any unique policies that you would like to see implemented in your federal government or your local government that they don't tend to focus
on? I would really like to see some environmental justice programs implemented. I think we have too long avoided I'm so sorry, my dogs are trying to play.
I was like, who is that?
We've too long really avoided doing the things we need to do to protect our voting systems. I'd like to see the Voting Rights Act restored. And I think we need to address more cybersecurity nationally, as well as I do believe we need some social media regulations. Are they publishers or not? And so I think there should be some kind of regulations on those.
Awesome. Yeah, that was one of our topics, but we ran out of time. But I got you. So, Justice, throw it to you. Last one. What would you like to see done in the government that they have not been doing?
Right. I assume that you're kind of giving me like if I was king situation.
Basically, if you were on there and you were like, we're doing this and none of you can do anything about it.
Dictator justice.
So if I was the dictator, first of all, I will say that I really liked a lot of the suggestions that were made, especially around like social media regulation. But yeah, I would first, I've got a few things. I would outlaw abortion entirely. I'd reform public education with a focus on classical education and biblical education and focus on empowering homeschoolers. I would annex Mexico and run a scorched earth policy against the cartels and human traffickers. I'd eliminate like 80% of the administrative state and the Federal Reserve included, James. I'd outlaw public unions because they are a scourge in our society. I would decriminalize drugs and create community-based recovery programs like they did in Switzerland. And I would just invest a ton of money. Like my big government plan would be in architecture and infrastructure. I think a beautiful country would make for a better country. And so that would be the direction I would go in.
Awesome. I only disagreed with about one of them.
Yeah, only one. I'm interested. That's interesting.
Vehemently disagreed with.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, don't really affect me too much.
Gotcha. I got you. So we had an amazing panel this evening. We were able to speak to a bunch of different topics. We had a bunch more, but of course the conversation got meaty. So we may have them come back maybe after the election and we'll talk about if your opinions are still the same or your feelings still the same. How are you feeling? We'll have them all come back. So we want to thank everyone who was on the panel this evening. I want to thank Christopher, Lynda, Justice, James, and Marissa for spending this time with us. We learned a whole lot. When I tell you, I didn't know that they made you stand for the pledge in college. I did not know that. I've learned something new today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you come back again. We will have another panel coming up this next or upcoming Thursday. So make sure you're tuned in for that. We're going to be talking to a whole new group of people. So come back. Thanks again.